Zero. Ask anyone about zero, and their typical response is the beginning, when you start counting, or even ones and zeros with coding. However, for me, and I'm sure most of you, you think of zero. You know, capital Z zero, the one with purple hair. I think might be lilac, but you know her. Well, you know about her, but how much do you really know about her? Well, considering that you guys asked multiple times for a zero during my mysteries video, I will gladly delve into the first being in the universe of Lucid Adventure, Zero. Now, I've talked a bit about Zero in my Some More Mysteries of Hardcore Leveling Warrior, but let's ignore that. Not because I don't think it's wrong or not interesting, but because I want to talk about the character. And speaking of characters, she kills a favorite. She first appears all the way back in episode 1. And I know in my live video I called Light the villain, but he's really more the Azula to Zero. And if you're not sure what that means, Azula is from Avatar: The Last Airbender. She's technically the villain of the show, but she's more of a front villain. She's the villain that actively confronts Team Avatar. Is she the main bad guy of the show? No, but she's more of an active obstacle to make sure Team Avatar is constantly fighting someone. But if they constantly fought the Fire Lord, the main bad of the show, it would make it seem less threatening when he eventually does show up. Ruby tried this with Adam, but we don't really talk about that. Zero was established during the very first episode to set a goal for Ethan that he will eventually get to eventually fight. We may not know Zero's strength, but we know she's smart. Smart enough to catch the number 1 ranked player off guard. Smart enough to figure out a way to make him vulnerable. Smart enough to be one of the only people to kill number 1 ranked Ethan. But the big question here is why? Zero is an entity created during when the world was being brought into existence. Her role in the game started out as a mediator. As she put it, I'm a being that is created by the fusion of your program and God's toy. God's toy being the thing that helped Grandpa Dark. But the important part is that she's there, and she's been there since the beginning. She's watching, learning, becoming more than just an AI. But that's also the problem. She's learned too much. She was once nothing more than a tool. As the comic put it, a mere tool without an identity. However, she became independent. She gained an identity that we don't find very favorable. Zero saw the world. And not her world, our world, the real world. To make the game complete, it needed memories and data from the players that logged in. So when Zero saw all that, it changed her. It made her realize something. The world that these players are from is corrupt and unjust. It's a world filled with war, destruction, chaos, hatred, and pain. And she doesn't want her world to become like theirs, like ours. So she sets out to do something impossible. To kill a god. And in fact, she tries to kill the creator of the game, Grandpa Dark. This, unsurprisingly, doesn't work, and she knew it wouldn't. So she decides to end it. She tries to kill herself in order to destroy the balance of the world. In order to make sure the world doesn't become corrupt. The world of Lucid Adventure has a balance to it. It hangs in the balance of both Grandpa Dark and Zero. So if one dies, the world dies. Grandpa Dark tries to save her, but he really only manages to delay the inevitable. He saves her, but he's slowly dying. Which brings us to now. Brings us to the killing of Ethan, the number 1 ranked player. That also begs the question, why? There are 2 things I can think of, that they both relate to each other. The simple one is strength. Zero's plan was eventually to kill the gods of war, time and space, death, blessing, and Grandpa Dark, who was a god in the game. But look at Ethan. Ethan is so strong that he can kill off Nightmare Lights, a dangerous wild card that only cares about 2 things. Himself and the world of Lucid Adventure. And if he found out that she was trying to destroy the one thing that brought him joy, then he would make it his goal to destroy her. The only way to make sure her plan goes off without a hitch is to kill off Ethan. And if you think this isn't exactly true, Then take a look at Ethan vs. Zero Part 2 during the combat tournament. Ethan is definitely not a top ranker, but even just using 50% nightmarization, he's able to basically fight on equal playing field. The only way that she could take out this threat was by surprise, which worked very well. But what about the other theory I had? Well, look at episode 92. There's kind of a throwaway moments where Ethan talks briefly about being the number 1 ranked player. You wouldn't understand that feeling when you stand on top of everyone. But then I saw something even higher. And when I tried to reach it, that showed up. That girl. Ethan saw something higher, something stronger, something more powerful. What was that thing? We're not too sure. Your guess is as good as mine. My guess is probably something to do with the gods or even maybe the dragons. Look at the way the light shines on top of the staircase. It looks holy or even godly. It's so far beyond even the top player. That's the strength of only a god or even a dragon. And with that level of power, that's definitely a massive threat. A massive threat that's going to get in the way. A massive threat that needs to be taken down. Unlike characters like Light, Master Swordsman, or even the likes of Yopai and Constance, Zero is probably one of the most important characters that doesn't really show up that often. However, she's one of the first characters introduced, only after Ethan and Heart Eater, but appears very rarely. However, the few episodes she does appear in, she's doing a lot. The next episode she appears in is episode 9, briefly showing how LAKEY knows her. Apparently she not only defeated him, but stole his horns and then almost killed him. Not really an important moment, but the next one definitely is. Technically she appears throughout the entire preliminary round of the combat tournament. She is both fake Ethan and fake Umami. But I want to talk about Ethan versus Zero, round 2. A pretty cool fight scene where we see Ethan go nightmare mode. However, I want to talk about 2 moments during this fight. First, when Ethan uses the nightmare ability. Look at Zero. Her face, it's shock or even surprise. She wasn't expecting him to use that ability. She's someone who is born from nightmare. She kind of expels it out of her. She's so powerful that nightmare comes from her. However, let's talk about that last line. You have to be removed. You don't belong in this world anyways, so get lost. Not only was Zero created to be the mediator of the game, she's the arbiter, the negotiator, the middleman. Her job was to make sure the rules of the game were followed. But in her mind, the best way to enforce the rules was to get rid of the pests. And if she couldn't get rid of the pests, then she got rid of the world that the pests were invading. A bit extreme, but whatever. That's her mindset. She needs to get rid of the ones that don't belong, which in her mind are the humans. We also see more of her plan. She's the one that's making the master blacksmith failures. The uber powerful weapons that, if hit twice, deletes your character. Just straight up gets rid of everything about your player character. And we see how she does it. It's a bit bizarre. She gets people with a good karma and other dead bodies and, well, does things. This is all in hopes to create a weapon strong enough to kill a god. And if it doesn't work, she trades it with the humans for more ingredients. We see more of her plan. Zero talks to Sam Han during the player creation process, giving him the personal attribute of Oedipius. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. And for those who don't really know anything about Greek mythology, at least other than what Lore Olympus tells us, I'll quickly sum it up for you. He accidentally fulfilled a prophecy that ended up killing his father and marrying his mother, thereby bringing disaster to his city and family. Or at least that's what Wikipedia says. And this is exactly what he does, but except it's not really accidentally. He planned for the death of his father. It doesn't entirely work, but he does push Grandpa Dark to his limits, which does eventually get Grandpa Dark killed. And this is what Zero's plan was. It was to make sure when the time came around, when the end of the combat tournament finally happened, Grandpa Dark was either unable to fight or just straight up dead, which turned out to happen a lot easier than expected. But before Zero appears to everyone, she first appears to Light, unlocking the nightmare within him and giving him the full power of Nightmare. Even Ethan says he's just like Zero. After Light probably gets hit with the strongest attack a normal player has ever used, Zero reveals herself. Before the combat tournament, she consumed and took the place of the God of Death, and then kills the God of Blessing. 3 down. All that's left is the God of War and the God, or I guess gods, of Time and Space. This leads to a fight between the God of War and Zero. The God of War is much stronger than Zero. However, Zero has been planning this for ages now. She knew that if she wanted to end the world, she needed to prepare to fight for all the gods. So her solution is to gain power. To gain power not of this world. She stabs many players with these metal tentacles and starts stealing the power from the real world, gaining so much she takes no damage from the God of War's attack, and manages to kill 2 of the 3 gods of time and space. She's prepared. Unfortunately, she wasn't prepared for the humans to give their power to the gods. And she definitely wasn't prepared for Yopai, slashing her as well as the other gods. She dies saying, "Take a good look at what you were trying to protect, gods. Those despicable species are humans." Zero isn't in the wrong, really. She wants to protect her world, the world that she loved so much, from pests, these despicable humans. And when she realized that she couldn't, well, she'd rather destroy the world she loved so much than let it become corrupt. This is her world, and the humans are invaders, but she breaks every rule, every authority, every piece of common sense to get her goal done. She kills gods and is literally a nightmare. Rules mean nothing to her. She kills everyone because she thinks what she's doing is right. She thinks everything she's done is correct, is justified. But it doesn't mean it's correct. It doesn't mean she's a noble character. Hardcore leveling warrior characters are all interesting. For the few that don't know, I've been developing alignment charts with hardcore leveling warrior characters. There is a playlist in the iCard, so go check it out to see where the other characters go and my reasoning for them. But here's the current standing. With Zero, it comes down to what we think versus what actually is. Zero thinks she's in the right. She thinks what she's doing is correct. However, is she an actual hero for doing this? No. She's constantly challenging rules and even the gods of the world, and she literally kills for it. Zero is definitely going into chaotic evil. And now, there were 2. So let me see if you guys think you guys know who goes in these next 2. And if you guys want to know, stay around until next week. But like always, thank you for watching.